Welcome to the Hire Client Shift. We are here today to have a look at a number of the ways that you can attract dream clients so you can work in flow with those dream clients, sell with more ease to those dream clients, and feel more joy in your business delivery because it's a lot lighter when we work with our dream clients, which is something we're going to dive into. So, welcome to this brand new webinar with me today. We're going to be here for 60 to 70 minutes. I'm going to be running you through a lot today. As if you've been to my webinars before, you know I like to be comprehensive and leave no stone unturned in the topic that I am covering. So I hope you have a pen and paper with you because you'll want to take notes. You will, of course, also get the replay. And if you're someone who would like me to have a look at your copy, there's going to be an opportunity about 2/3 of the way through today. And if you do want me to look at your copy, just identify right now what's a page you'd love me to look at. Doesn't really matter what it is. I'm going to look at it and go, do I feel like you're speaking to your high level client? And if not, how could you go about doing that? What might be some of the things you would need to change? And of course, I'm telling you in this webinar how to do that. But I will be giving you a live demonstration. All right, so let's dive into today. I feel really excited about this webinar, and it's been in the works for a couple of months now in terms of all of the conversations that I have been having and all of the clients that I've been serving, and how I've really seen how much a lot of people aren't even aware that they are not speaking to the client that they are actually designed to serve at this point in their business journey. Some of the things that I've heard regularly that give me signposts to that this could be what's happening in your business are things like, I'm attracting clients, but they're not the right level of clients. There's always something that's not quite a match. Or I'm, working with some great clients, but actually they are a little bit of hard work. They do find it quite draining, and that's not a judgment, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just part of our business journey and something we need to recognize. There can be, I'm getting interest, so I'm getting leads in, but they're not quite converting into my paid offers, and that can be a sign that you're not quite attracting the right person as well. Or you might be doing your work and actually just feeling a bit underappreciated with the effort that you go to, or you're feeling overworked. And in some cases, we can actually feel a little bit resentful. We don't talk about that very much, but it's a really important signpost to recognize that something needs to change in the way we work or the person that we are attracting. Let me know in the comments if any of those relate to you. Give me a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Let me know which one feels most relevant or prevalent for you right now. Let me get my chat box up so I can see. Okay. And so these are just some of the reasons in the bigger picture context. And I'm feeling really passionate right now about this because I have been through this journey myself, by the way. This is one of the reasons I can now spot it so clearly with the people that I'm working with. They'll bring me copy or they'll talk to me about their business, and they're saying things and I'm like, you're not speaking to the right person for you. And I know what can shift in their business when they do, both in the ease of delivery and the joy they experience in their business, and also the ease in terms of making more income and making more sales. Because when we're speaking to our right person, they're already ready to buy, and they're also a perfect match for us and how we deliver things and our gifts, which we're going to dive into a little bit later too. Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Number 2 and number 1. Brilliant. All right. So, given everything I've just shared with you, here are the pieces I really want you to know today. So, we're going to be covering them in this webinar because I want to deliver to you a mental shift about who your person is, what happens when you get to work with them, and why those people really want to buy from you. That's a bit of a bonus that I when I was preparing the webinar, I was like, actually, this is a bigger picture that you also need to really grasp. So the specifics we're gonna cover today are the three keys to attracting your dream clients with ease. I'm going to talk about that simple way to elevate your copy so that it is speaking to that higher level client, that dream client. We're going to be talking about energy. So we're going to be talking about how to align your energy so you're a match for that soul client. Little hint right up front, if you didn't know already, we're always creating in our business. We've got the practical, but we've got the energetic, right? So if you've already been working on your copy and it isn't working, it's likely there's an energetic reason that you aren't attracting those clients you want to really work with. So we're going to be talking about that today. Like, why might that be? And also, how do we go about shifting our energy and making it more congruent to the match of our soul client? And yeah, that final piece there, the little bonus piece that I really wanted to share with you is like, why do our soul clients want to buy from us? And sometimes when we can see it from that perspective, we can see what else we need to be sharing about ourselves in order to reach those people. And I'm going to be talking about that at the end. So I was going to say let's dive in, but just in case you actually haven't met me before, my name is Lynn Hord. I am the copy queen. I'm also an intuitive business mentor, and I am really passionate about helping soul-driven women who are doing their passion and their work and their soul's work in the world to really amplify their message so that they can more easily attract their dream client. My background is I've been working with words for, I think it's over 20 years now. My first career was as a journalist. I worked in the print media as a writer and an editor for 17 years. I've been in business for 11 years now. I need to update this slide. And I've always been working with women who are on a mission to make the world a better place and to express their authentic gifts and self into the world. I am a high intuitive. One of the reasons my clients love working with me is because I don't just know very practically and strategically how to write better copy. I also know from an energy level, because I'm a high intuitive, I plug into what's energetically happening for my clients. And I really believe business is a vehicle for our own evolution, which is why I love working with the practical and the spiritual, because I know that when we combine those two things together, that's actually what helps us evolve through the vehicle of our business. That's just a little bit about me so that you know why I am sitting here today, and I know all of these things I'm going to be sharing with you. Okay. So, to begin with, I've touched on it a little bit already. One of the biggest mistakes I see across the board is thinking that you can attract your dream clients through just working on your messaging, just fixing your copy, just figuring out the right angle for your content. And that is one of the reasons that a lot of people can really struggle to shift working with that higher client, because it's got a few more layers than that. The copy fix is actually the last piece of the puzzle. There are two more that come before that. And of course, we're talking about those today. So these are the three pieces. So these are the three ingredients of being able to easily and simply attract that dream client that makes your heart sing, right? You see their name on your calendar and you're like, yay, I get to see them today. Julie Gibbons, who is on the call today, she is one of those people for me. I see her pop up in our Elevate Mastermind calls. I'm like, yay, Julie's here today, right? So that's the kind of response we want to have with the clients that we get to work with. And these are some of the key ingredients I want to share with you today about how to do that in your business more often than you are right now. So this isn't a like either or. So this isn't like you're not attracting your dream client or you are attracting your dream client. It's a bit of a continuum. So I don't want you to think that, it's a black and white situation. You'll be doing some of this, but you may not be doing all of this. So look for the pieces today where you feel like you could be tweaking it, like dialing in and going, oh, I could be doing that better. or look for the pieces where you're like, oh, I don't think I'm doing that at all. So that's the kind of thing to look out for today to make sure you're taking away what you need and you can just leave the rest. Okay. This is not you'll go away and you'll know all of this and implement all of it at one time. It's a step-by-step process. So some of those steps, the ingredients here are these three pieces. So first of all, we actually need to get clarity on who we are really here to serve right now. And I say right now because as we evolve, so does our ideal client. So in a year's time, you may have had some massive evolution, and that will likely mean you'll need to be upgrading your ideal client as well. It doesn't have to mean that, but you'll know internally if you're like, oh, I'm not enjoying working with these people as much, you'll know it's time to look at, okay, who do I need to now be speaking to? So that's the first piece, clarity right now on who you are here to serve. Who is that dream client of yours? The second piece is your copy. So once we have clarity on who the ideal client is, how do we then change and tweak our copy so that it expresses the desires and problems of that person? And I'm going to go into this obviously more deeply, but this is one of the biggest mismatches when we want to be attracting that person is we're not actually speaking to them in our copy. We're going to come back to that because it's a biggie. And then that final piece there is congruence. Like, is our energy matching our ideal client? And how do we go about aligning it so that they can more easily feel us and see us and be attracted into our world? Because there are some things that might be happening inside of us that are getting in the way of them really identifying us and seeing us as the person who can solve the problems that they have and are ready to pay money to solve. All right, so they're the three pieces is that we're going to be, oh, you're welcome, Julie. They're the three pieces that we're going to be looking at throughout the rest of our time together today. Okay, so let's look at that first one. Who is your dream client? Now, you probably have a lot more awareness about who it isn't versus who it is. And one of the ways I like to think about it as an analogy is your ideal client right now is looking for something. They have gaps, or we can call it holes, in their business, their relationship, their health, whatever area you support them with. And they're like, I don't know how to fill those, or I don't know how to solve those. So what you offer for your soul clients, for your dream clients, what you offer is like a sock and a plug, socket and a plug. That was a pluck it moment. Socket and a plug. You're the plug and your ideal client is the socket. When you put them together, magic happens, right? We get the sparks, we get the flow that they are missing in whatever area it is that you help them with. And how I like to think about the dream client is it is who is perfectly poised to soar when your magic gets plugged into their problem. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's how I think about the dream client. I just wanted to share that with you first. All right, so here are some of the common mistakes or common responses that can often come up when I ask somebody the question, who is your dream client? And it'd be really interesting actually for you right now to just take a moment and consider, do I know who my ideal client is? Do you? Do you know who your ideal client is? Let me know. And it's not surprising if you don't, because it's not always something that we've been encouraged to think about. And here are a couple of reasons why. We can, if someone were to ask you, who is that dream client of yours, you will normally just default to thinking about who have you already worked with in the past? Or you might be thinking about who is showing up. And I've had a lot of people say those, so, well, I'll tell you who's actually been showing up, or I'll tell you who I've worked with in the past. And I have to pause them and go, okay, it's not necessarily those people, your dream client. Who do you want to work with? And we're going to discuss in a little while why that can be tricky for our mind. And it's because we may not have a frame of reference for who our ideal person is as yet, right? We may not have necessarily experienced a dream client or the entirety of a dream client. So we don't have a frame of reference, which is why we sometimes need to use our imagination. And also, there's a bit of reverse engineering we can do, and we'll get into that one as well. Something else that can happen when it comes to figuring out your dream client is actually not recognizing that in your mind, the person you're speaking to is actually someone who is disempowered as opposed to empowered. And that can often be because we're just copying some of the language that we might see other people are using in their copy and not thinking about the nuance of the words we're choosing to describe our ideal client. I'm going to give you some examples about this later because this alone can be a big shift for people when they realize, oh, I don't actually want to work with that person, but I'm still using that language. So we'll come to that a little bit later as well. One of the other mistakes is, as I said, not allowing yourself to imagine your perfect person. And that can be because sometimes it can be uncomfortable. We can feel the gap between who we're working with, who we want to work with, and who we need to be in order to be confident working with that higher level person. Another issue we're going to talk about a little bit later. And part of that is that number 5 there, thinking you have to be ahead of them in one way or another in order to feel like you can sit there and go, I can help you. I've got an alternate point of view for you about that coming up. All right, so there's some of the common things, particularly around the, oh, here's who I have worked with, rather than allowing yourself to imagine who is your perfect person. So, how do we begin to figure out who this dream client is? And inside my free resource, the Soul Client Workbook, you would have got a link to that in the very first email that you were sent when you registered for the webinar. There is a section in there about higher client, higher level. If you want a higher level client, speak to a higher level problem. And this has a table. It has a table in there that can help you flesh this out. So definitely go and check out the Soul Client Workbook, or if you don't have access to it, make sure you send me a message and I'll send that over to you. But here are some of the ways that we can really get into the specifics and the characteristics of who is that person that we want to work with. Because the goal, one of my goals for today, is to basically give you a mental shift about who it is. Because right now you're holding a picture in your head, and it may be fuzzy or it may be clear about who you think you're here to work with or who your ideal client is. And until we shift that and you literally see a different person in your mind, it's going to be tricky for you to be able to speak to that person in your copy. So this is always going to be the first step, getting that clarity around who is the dream client. And here are 6 places that you can have a look to figure out who might it be and start to paint that picture in your mind. So it's thinking about these things. What skills do they need? What knowledge do they need? What experience do they have? What attributes do I want them to have? What awareness level are they at? And what is their expertise? If, for instance, you're working with somebody in business, what is their level of expertise? You may not necessarily need that if you're working, for instance, in the area of relationships. So just to give you some examples, and whilst we're here, maybe grab your pen and paper and jot down things that come to mind for you about who your ideal client might be in relation to these categories. So for instance, the people that I work with, one of the skills that they need to have is they already need to be good writers. Because I don't teach people how to write, I teach them how to copyright. So that means that they already need to feel pretty confident writing, so they're happy to go and write content, they're happy to write blogs, but they might not have quite figured out, well, how do I then make position what I'm writing so it speaks to my ideal client? And that's where I come in because that's part of my expertise and that's where if we talk about like the plug and the socket, right? My plug is helping people elevate their writing to copywriting, which they don't know yet, right? That's their holes. And so that's one of the ways I plug into my clients. My magic elevates their business, them and their business. So knowledge-wise, my people need to know how to write a blog. They need to have already been doing content for a couple of years. They need to be, have knowledge of business and probably they've already done webinars or they're running programs. So they need to have that kind of level. And that can also be, so knowledge can also be, do they need to have knowledge around, so I have a lot of healer clients, like do they need to have knowledge around like shadow work? Do they need to understand like inner child work? Like what kind of knowledge do they need to have? And so experience can be maybe you're in relationships and you want your person to have been like married for 15 years, like so they know what it's like to have moved through that experience of marriage. Like attributes are like what are the attributes that your person needs in order to really like make the most of working with you. So my people need to be action takers. So attributes for mine are action takers. They are usually they often define themselves as they have been overachievers in their time, right? They get stuff done. They need to be open-minded. And my people definitely need to be aware of the fact that energy plays a big part in our life because that's something I talk about a lot. And like awareness level. So I have a lot of coaches and transformational specialists that I work with. And so one of the things I often help them figure out is what level of awareness, and if you're into like the ascension ladder, like where are they on their ascension pathway? Because that matters to the level of client you're speaking to, the language you're going to be using in your copy. And then expertise, like do they need expertise? Most of the people I work with, they're like what I call super experts. They have been in their field for anywhere from 15 to 20 years, a lot of the clients that I work with. And so they are like high experts at what they do. And, or, if you might work with people who are potentially like new in business or, they're just at the beginning of whatever journey that you work with them on. So it's thinking about those things. And I didn't say at the beginning, of course, as always, if questions come up around what I'm sharing, please feel free to put them in the chat. Julie did actually write, I keep getting stuck on getting my last dream client was a fluke. Oh, that's a good one, Julie. I haven't heard that one before. Amazing. But can I say how wonderful that you actually have someone in your mind's eye that you're like, that person is my dream client. So you could use this exercise that we're doing right now to really pull out the very specific characteristics of that person so we can make sure you are speaking to them. And we'll get to it yes, perfect. And we'll get to it in a little bit, but obviously that's a piece of mindset work that would be really good for you to work on because at the moment the belief is getting my last dream client was a fluke, right? You know that, as in that's a belief. So it's really important for you to be working on, well, what is the belief I need to be indoctrinating into myself? So repeating and working on whether it's with EFT or in your journal to really make that connection energetically with this is my normal, right? And this is the game, isn't it, right? Because if we're here, it's like that dream client isn't coming to us on repeat. So there's all of these places that we get to tweak. So wonderful that you've got that client that you're like, she was my ideal client. That's amazing. All right. So is this, hopefully this is making sense. Obviously, put any questions in around this one. Does this help you to kind of begin to see how we can paint that picture of who your ideal client is? If not, put some questions into the chat for me. All right. So once we've got that picture of who they are, let me go. Yeah. This is when, excellent, good concrete aspects of ponder. Perfect. When we have the picture of who they are, and part of that picture is really considering what level they're at. So it's like when we have that picture in their mind, the way it kind of works for me is, I see them doing different things. And as we move on, we're going to get concrete and tangible for you about that. But it's like I see them in doing different things in my mind. So that's what we're looking to elevate that picture, that image in your head of who that is, so that we can access the actual problems and desires of this higher level dream client. Because if we're not attracting the level of client we want, it does mean, I know this can feel a little bit confronting, and it has for me when I've been told this about my copy as well, because as I said, I've been through this journey too. If we're not attracting that dream client on a regular basis, it usually means we are not speaking to them strongly enough in our copy with clarity. We're not reflecting their experience in the words that they read from us. And what's often, oh no, that's a slide ahead. I was going to get a slide ahead. So what we're looking to identify now that we've got the characteristics, the next thing we want to look at is what are their actual struggles and what are their actual desires. So the thing we need to realize is right now, okay, the current problem you are speaking to is someone who is here on their journey, right? This is like it's a lower level problem, shall we say, right? But your next level client is actually working with a higher level problem. So this is the simple copy shift. Remove the problems that you are speaking to if you've identified they're to the wrong person and replace them with the higher level problem that speaks to your higher level client. I'm not saying that that's always easy, by the way, but it is simple. It is shifting that view of who it is in your head, shifting the way that you speak about the problems that you help with in your copy so that who you want to attract is a match for the problems that you're speaking to. So if you're trying to attract somebody up here and you're speaking to a problem down here, they're just going to go straight over that person's head. They're just going to scroll on by. They're just going to go, oh, well, that's not the problem that I'm looking for, so that's not the person for me. So this is why this work is so important. We need to make sure we are really talking about the problems that we solve. And I'm actually going to tell you a story now about my own experience. It really illustrates this so well. So I mentioned earlier the Elevate Mastermind, which the gorgeous Julie is a member of. And for the first year in my it ran, I really struggled to bring in new people. And I couldn't really understand why. And even though I'm a messaging person, I still need help with my messaging when I can't see what the problem is. So I got help from someone I trust, and I really know she's an excellent messaging person as well. And I got her to, we talked about what I did inside the Elevate Mastermind. And then she looked at my copy and she's like, Lynn, you're not actually telling people in that copy the problems you solve inside the mastermind. And I was like, what do you honestly, it was one of those moments, very humbling, and you're like, what do you mean? She's like, you actually help people with funnels, like conversion, and it's not just about messaging, right? You actually help them with the much bigger picture in business. And I was like, she's like, you don't mention any of that out there. So my copy was not speaking to the higher level problems I actually solved inside the mastermind, which is why I wasn't getting the right people for the offer. So I went and redid my copy, but I also created a new webinar. You might have been on it. It's called the Up Your Nurture Game webinar, and it actually spoke to the next level problem, the higher level problem of my clients. How do I get more conversions? How do I improve my lead generation? How do I nurture someone from being a cold audience member to someone who's ready to buy from me? Those were the problems that my people were experiencing that my offer was a perfect fit for. But I wasn't speaking to those problems in my copy when I was talking about that offer, right? So hopefully that helps you see the dots of like what happens. And what did happen is when I put out that webinar, I got 3 people enroll and then from that webinar straight into the Elevate Mastermind. And that was like some of the best conversion rates I'd had for that offer in a very long time. So that's why I know this works. And I've done this with clients of my own as well. And I'll share some examples of those as we go. But that's why this work is so important. And it's really a worthwhile investment of your time to look at your own copy and go, is that the person I want to be working with? And we'll get into that a little bit more. Okay. So when it comes to this next level problem that we want to really identify is, and if you struggle with it, because then a lot of people I've worked with, they kind of draw a blank, right? As I said, because you don't already have that frame of reference. But the simple question to ask yourself is, okay, so if you look at the list of problems that you speak to in your copy right now, ask yourself the question, if my person had solved that problem, what's the next problem that they would face? That's the simple way to elevate it. And because you have expertise in the field that you're working in, you will be able to identify this if you just sit down and give yourself a moment. And I'm going to give you some examples to help you. So, a client I started working with a couple of months ago in my one-to-one offer, a lot of her copy was around productivity. And in our very first call, I said to her, the person that you want to attract, is productivity actually an issue for them? And she sat there for a moment and she said, oh, no, not really. They actually are productive. I was like, great. Okay. So if they've solved the productivity issue, what's the next one? Like, what's the next issue that they have? And we actually came up with a bunch of different problems, but one of them was, right, she's productive, but she's not prioritizing the things that are going to move the needle in her business. She was productive, but then she was actually feeling a little bit overwhelmed because the productivity was resulting in more clients, and then she was feeling overwhelmed by more clients, right? So those were the new problems that we started to get her to speak to inside her copy. You know, here, one of the ones from my business in the past is I talked a lot about like the message feeling like it's not landing. So there's not clarity and there's not resonance. And when that has happened for my clients, though, one of the next issues they have is, well, I know my message is working. I know it's landing, but it's still not giving me more clients because I'm still speaking to the same pool of people. List growth is something they need to work on next. And a lot of these, of course, are from my own experience, just to give you examples, right? So an old problem I used to speak to was inconsistent content. People like, didn't know what to write, didn't have a process, wasn't sure if it was working. And so the problem they identified for themselves is inconsistent content. Once you have consistent content and it's working, what's the next problem? They weren't getting enough leads. That content wasn't giving them the results that they wanted, which was more leads in their business. Right. And so you've got, right. So then I addressed not enough leads. Once that's been solved, what's the next problem? It could be not converting enough of those people into paying clients, right? So hopefully you see what that means. Like, let me know in the comments, does that make sense for your business? Have you identified potentially to just think about one problem right now you often speak to in your business? So I know, for instance, what's one of yours, Julie? If you want to just do a quick workshop, we can happily do that. Like, so think about what's one of the problems. If that was solved, what is the next problem your person would be dealing with? Also, if you're someone who is a coach or a transformational practitioner, you are most likely working with somebody who is on the same path as you, but earlier on in the journey, right? They haven't reached the level of expertise or knowledge or success that you have in your industry. And so it can also think about, where have you come from? What were the problems that you have moved through in order to arrive where you are? That's also another hack that you can use if you're still feeling stumped around that one. All right, so that is something, that's the exercise that I really would love you to do. Like, you could pick like a sales copy you've written, or a post that you've written, and go, what are the problems? So just list them in bullet points, like 3 to 5. What are the problems I speak to here? What's the next level problem once that would have been solved? What is that? And see how that shifts your perception of your person. I love this exercise because it really opens your mind to that higher level client and how you need to speak to them. All right. So, the next thing I want you to recognize, so we've been talking about problems and desires. I really focused on problems there, because the problems of your dream client, because that is the place most people get stuck. You can often identify what they want, and that doesn't necessarily, bigger picture, that doesn't change, but it's really the problem advancement that is the real thing we need to focus on. The other thing, when I look at somebody's copy and I can see that they need to really elevate who they're speaking to, is we can often be, and this is particularly for people who are attracting those who they feel like are not a right fit, or they aren't coming with the right attitude to work with you, or you're finding clients aren't actually doing the work. They're not willing to put in the effort. And that can sometimes signal clients who are still in a disempowered state. And when you have reached a level of expertise in your business, you are a best fit for somebody who is empowered, ready to take action, know that if they put in the work, they're going to get the results. And that is someone who is more empowered, who sees themselves as more empowered. So this isn't a judgment we're putting on people, it's actually how they're seeing themselves. And we want to be looking at our copy, the words we're using and the phrases we're using, and really scrutinizing it and going, if you speak to, in your copy as an example, like someone who is broken, you want to ask yourself, do I want to work with someone who perceives themselves as broken? Right? Is that your level of client? If if you're speaking to a problem as an example, where you're talking to someone who is at the very beginning stages of their like design journey. Julie is an excellent branding and design person. If you're talking to somebody who's at the beginning of their design journey, and you're like, do you still struggle to create your own logo? Look at that sentence and go, do I want to work with someone who is struggling to create their own logo? Right? And you can think, and you're like, because that person is, they're wanting to do it themselves, and, they have no experience in design, and most likely. And so you're like, do I want to work with that person and those characteristics, that stage of the journey? And remember, one of the big things I really want you to remind you about today is you get to choose who you work with. This is a really big piece energetically around you easily attracting the person that you really want to work with, is by recognizing that you get to choose. You don't have to just accept who is showing up. And part of the choosing is what we're doing here today, identifying who it is, really being a stand for speaking to that person in your copy. So we're doing a lot of that work today. Okay, so Julie, so Julie says, I've often got stuck on early business equals need to learn branding, graphics basics, and then stuck on, but next level clients do not want to learn how to be graphic designers. Yes, no, that's right, Julie. So really they often just want someone to do it for them. And is, and that is actually, I guess, your next level problem. So if part, so I know one of your offers is for the person who wants to learn, design basics, and, they're actually wanting to understand how they can do that for themselves. So, and even for that person, right? Even if they get those understandings and that basics and when they're ready to elevate, that like next level problem is, I want my branding to be more professional. I want my branding to be able to last for the next, 2 years or however long a good branding lasts for. Mine lasts for much longer because I love it. Brandy did my Brandy work. Julie did my website and my branding. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the same continuum, Julie. So they don't need to go, oh, I want to improve my skill here. The next level problem could be, okay, I've maxed out my ability to do it here, so I'm going to need to get support and hire someone to help me up here. So that is the next level problem. Does that help? Uh, Yeah, that's exactly. So another higher level problem is they want their branding to project a richer, deeper version of who they are. So that's the next level problem. They recognize they can't do it themselves. They need to hire someone to help them with that. So that seems like a really good example to me. Okay. So, yeah, and so I wanted to remind you about you get to choose who it is. And your joy, your level of joy in terms of the clients that you work with is a reflection of how suited they are to you and where you're at, and them being that dream level client. And that's the thing to really consider. Like, your joy matters. If you want a sustainable business, you need to really enjoy the people that you work with. And this isn't saying that everyone who you ever work with ever again is going to be that dream client, because our clients are part of the way we grow. When we attract people, we see like where are the pieces we need to shore up in order to be a match for our dream client. So like right now, I'm having to shore up my boundaries in my business around particularly my one-to-one work. And it's not in a massive way. I haven't had huge boundary crashes or anything like that. But, there's been a tension between, what I deliver and the expectation. Anyway, and it's because I haven't been clear. So it's an opportunity for me to go, let me put down on paper, here is how this works so that everybody understands, what's the give and take, in my one-to-one work. So we're always evolving, we're always growing. So this isn't you're not doing anything wrong if you are, not always attracting your dream clients. They are, like I said at the beginning, our business is an opportunity for our evolution. So when we're attracting people who aren't a perfect fit, it's there to show us something around what do we need to do to with our boundaries, with how we speak to our clients, with how we value our own time and our own contribution. And how do we then actually put that into our business, our copy, our processes, so that we are more easily attracting and a match for that soul client. So, here are just some examples of how we can just shift so that we are using more empowered language. So, one of my clients recently, she was using this in her copy, and I said to her, do you want to work with somebody who considers themselves to be broken? And she was like, I probably don't. And also, the other question I asked her was, does the person you want to work with consider themselves to be broken? And I was not dissimilar to her ideal client. And I said to her, I don't feel like I'm broken. I just feel like there's something I'm missing. There's something I can't figure out, right? I feel very empowered. I'm just like, it's just that piece. I'm like, I can't see it. What is that, right? In terms of me moving forward in my own business. So, and that's if you can't figure out what you're missing, that implies you've been trying, you've been in momentum, you've been in action, but the actions you're taking aren't working and you can't figure out what to do, right? So, hopefully, you can see the nuance here of how we are shifting to speak to a different person. I had another client and she was talking to somebody, her copy was talking about affirmations, and she is a like super expert healer. Like she is one of the highest level healers I have ever worked with. And I said, is your person actually into affirmations at this point in their journey? She took a moment. She was like, not really. And I was like, they probably did that like a decade ago. And she's like, yeah, they did. Okay, then why are we talking about affirmations in your copy? That's not where your person is. I don't know why that says list growth. It shouldn't. Oh, sorry, I hadn't finished this one. Fair enough. Okay, so ignore these. They are not the right examples. Um, I have a client who she has a mastermind and she created like a next level masterminds for more advanced business owners. And she was really struggling to even get people into sales calls for that higher level offer. And she hired me to figure out what was going on. And she wasn't speaking to a higher level problem. She really helps people with manifestation, but she was still talking to somebody who was manifesting from a place of not actually having really started their business. And so they were looking for the magical manifestations of a new client, in 5K months, but they weren't in action. They weren't actually in momentum in their business. They hadn't quite realized that you still need to be taking action in order to create the manifestation. So we started speaking that kind of language. You've been taking the actions, doing the manifestation clearing work, but you're still not easily bringing in those higher level clients, that kind of thing. All right. Or you might be speaking to someone who's feeling really lost about their purpose and wondering if they're ever going to find it. And is that the level of person that you want to be speaking to? Or is it someone who is on the path, right? And they're just like, but they're feeling doubts about like their next steps or the right next step. So hopefully that is making sense. And these are some of the questions you can just keep asking yourself when you do that real nitty gritty on your copy. Is this a word I want my ideal client to identify with? Is this a language that I want them to see in themselves? Do I want to work with someone who thinks that they're broken, works with affirmations, is just hoping they can manifest, 50K months? Okay, so really ask yourself that question. Okay. All right. So, how to elevate it to speak to your. Oh, yes. So, so this is the live demo part. So, Julie, as you are here with me, is there branding sales page? All right. So, let me have a look over here. All right. I'm just going to stop share for a second so I can bring up this page. Thanks, Julie, for putting that link in there. Okay. Now, I do know that Julie actually has a lot of good copy. So this might be a case of we say, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Julie. But let's have a look. Okay, I've got that up. Let me share the screen. All right. So here is Julie's page. All right. So, and you go through it like this, right? Do I want to work with person who wants a brand that beams out you? Tick. Yes, she does. That is the right person. And Julie, I've got if you disagree, like as we go along, if you're like, actually, that might not be true anymore. Yeah, gold star for you indeed, my friend. As we kind of scroll through, I want you to be doing this along with me. Like, is this the person that I want to be attracting, right? So you do want to attract somebody who wants their brand to beam out them. So that's a tick. They are not like everyone else. Now, a nuance is, do they think that? Do they think that they're not like everyone else? Um, and I would say yes. Like
That
I
is a
think that
good
would,
point.
yeah. But
Do
and
they
it's,
think?
do they think that about themselves? Do they think that their copy is dull and do you want to work with that person? So, this is really easy for me because I have been a client of Julie. So I'm like, yeah, mine was dull. Mine was dull, right? So and I was like, I don't want that anymore, right? So that is I would say that's right for you, Julie, right? They do want a brand that radiates their vision and they want vividly. So, that's great. All right, let's look at some of the bullets. Um, your tired DIY brand looks about as appealing as yesterday's sandwich. I do love your humor. Yes, so this is a good example, right? Your business has grown and developed. So she's not saying you're starting out. Julie is saying you're someone who has grown and developed their business. So that speaks to, someone who has more expertise and more experience. So, and what I know about Julie's ideal client, that is correct. So that's great. Speaking to the right person. Yep, yep, yep. And your old branding just doesn't cut it anymore. All right, where are some of the pain points? Yeah, it's time to step up and step up big. Yes. So this is a good example. There comes a time when you need to ditch using the same old Canva templates. And that's is my person using the same old Canva templates? If I think about me before I met Julie, the answer was yes. So Julie, as we go through this, what are you noticing? Is it still a fit for the person you want to be attracting?
It kind of is, but when I was thinking about my dream client,
Yeah.
they're like the person that I love working with is probably even beyond this.
Okay.
It's like this is the I was talking about to you the other day.
Yes.
This person is someone who just pays me a bucket of money
Yeah.
like once a year, and I just do anything they want, which is great because she's a very high level. She's like I don't know she's a very high level business,
Yes.
and she's been doing it for a long time, and I love working with her. And she's very funny.
Yes.
Humor's very important to me. Um, but also just because it appeals to the ADHD-ness of my brain, where I get to do a little bit of everything, and it's
Um,
very rewarding because I have it. There's the overall cohesiveness of it,
yeah.
but I get to do a bunch of little things within that. There's lots of variety.
Yes, got you.
Mm,
So you might want to actually, in that case, take some time to think about what are the problems that client came to you with initially and then
mm,
subsequently has asked you to solve for them. And that
mm.
might give you a different frame for it could be like potentially a new offer, or it could be I really want to elevate this to speak to that person.
Yeah,
Right? Because we're not
yeah,
talking about our customer journey today, but it could be, because we're talking about our dream client, but our dream client can be wanting to solve different problems. And, you might be like a branding and design whiz in the back pocket for someone who's on a higher level, who is in a higher level business. So, um,
yeah.
you know,
So
something to,
yeah, like,
but
mm,
and it's like for this offer, do you like working with with the level of person that this attracts?
yes. I mean, I still like working. I love the transformation I can bring to someone who has that
Yes.
DIY brand, and I look at it and go, oh my God, and I
Okay.
change
Yeah.
that. I completely transform that. So that's
Yes.
that's really joyful for me as
Yes.
well. Yes.
Great. Well, and I do actually consider that person your dream client, right? They're in a different stage and they're wanting to solve a different problem. You have a clear
Mm,
offer that plugs into that. You get joy, you receive a lot of joy from that. So that
Yeah.
tells me like we're in the right ballpark here. And it could be
Mm.
that you have potentially, and again, this is not what we're talking about today, but because we're not doing the customer journey, but it is recognizing like we don't just solve one problem, we solve a number of problems as our ideal client moves through their customer journey with us. Um,
Yeah.
so, you could use, in terms of the person who needs this service, are you speaking to the right level of client for it in terms of you would love to work with them?
Um, I the reason I you know how important aesthetics are to me, and I see people with who are in startup and they just have zero idea, and it's they shoot themselves in the foot before they even start.
Yes.
And I just I don't want them to shoot themselves in the foot. I want them to actually have a good go at it. So that's why I've offered that, that single session branding where I can take someone and just like within 60 minutes, I can give them something to move on with. It's something a little bit more cohesive than what they,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
usually, yeah,
Yeah.
they
And
have no idea.
yeah, so that's more for you. Which page are we on here? Which one's this one?
So this is my full branding page, like just it's just like
Yes.
my work with me page. So this is my
Oh, I
main
see. So
thing.
it's got a list of the,
Yeah,
oh
so
yeah,
it's got
other
everything.
different
And
things.
so then there are the three levels that I
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah.
There's a branding for startups, a beautiful brand, which is like,
Yeah.
going from startup into growth
Yeah.
phase. And then there's like the Lux Digital, and that's the one I need to change up with to attract. That's
Yes.
not really what I want to offer. I've not had anybody take that up anyway, so I don't know
Which
why
one?
we've
Lux
got it up there.
Digital?
Lux brand renewal.
Yeah.
So it's people who've been in growth for a while and they want to just go that next level. But
I've never seen
that
you advertise that one, by the way.
no, I've not really
Could that be part
and
of
I think
why?
that's a mindset thing too.
Yeah.
This dream
You don't
client that
think.
I have that I said was a fluke and I haven't advertised to them very
Okay.
much at all.
So thank you for highlighting another piece of the puzzle here, Julie. Well done, you. If we're not,
I have a
if
problem
we're
to be
not
solved.
actually sharing those offers that are a fit for that higher level client, then it's going to be tricky to keep attracting them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, in terms of what I'd love you to go away is think about that. I can hear that there's definitely some mindset work to be done about like, of course, I get to attract those higher level people. When I share with them the ways that I can work. And there's a slide right at the end that is going to give you a little insight into this one too. So, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what I want you to do, go away with is like actually look at the individual pages rather than the
Mm-hmm.
work with me page and
Yep.
go, first of all, am I happy working with this client? Am I happy delivering this service? And then go back to the characteristics piece. Who is the perfect person at this stage? What are the characteristics they have to make me love delivering this? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
make sure you've actually got those, you're speaking to those pieces inside the copy. Same with this one and same with this one. So all of these, as long as you're really happy to keep delivering all of them, if you enjoy delivering every single one of those packages, then
Mm.
it's the same dream client. They're just trying to solve different problems along the customer journey that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, but in
One thing that
particular,
yeah, sorry,
In
keep going.
particular, yeah, in particular, I want you to go and look at this one because this is the one
Yep.
in terms of your higher level client that if you started promoting that, you'd really see what was in the way and why you're not reaching those people. One of them you've already identified is because you're not actually promoting that. And because you're not promoting it because you think it was a fluke. You don't actually know that they're out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's a bit of a circular thing, isn't it? I'm not promoting it, so I'm not getting any more. So therefore, I'm just reaffirming the fact that that was a fluke.
Correct.
So
Well
well
done.
done, me. Not.
Well
But
done you
other thing,
indeed. Well done
yes.
you.
The other thing I was thinking about when you were going through that copy, you kept on saying, "Oh, where are your pain points?" But I actually haven't really talked about the pain points so much in that copy, have I?
No, you haven't actually. I did struggle to
Yeah.
find them. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and and that's where looking, your ideal client is looking to solve a problem. Like that's just factual. They're looking to pay money to someone to solve a problem they have. So we need to be really clear about what is that problem. So that's something that for each of the, both for the higher level thing that you were, your higher level page, but also on the individual pages, have a look at like, am I speaking to those pieces? Do I know
Yep.
what they are? Do I have clarity on what they are
Yep.
as well?
Hmm.
Present. All right. So there's some of your pieces of homework to go away and look at, my lovely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so the now we're going to get into that third and final ingredient that we talked about at the beginning, which was really making sure we are aligning our energy to match our dream client. So here are some of the common barriers that I see all the time around why we haven't shifted into working with that and attracting that higher level client more often. So the first one is we're not energetically letting go of the old client that we've outgrown. So I mentioned earlier, again, this is no judgment. It's a really natural progression in our business journey. As we grow and evolve, we develop more expertise, we develop more deeper nuance in our work. We naturally get to work with someone who is also more advanced in some way. But if we don't let go of the old client, there's no way we're going to be able to start speaking to that new level of client. And it's that internal fear, particularly for the healers that I've worked with, they have an internal fear of guilt. Sorry, not fear. They have an internal feeling of guilt. They're like, oh, but I'm here to serve everyone. I can serve them. What happens if I don't serve them? And one of the things I really encourage people to do is a little ritual to release them into the ethos and really trust that the universe is going to provide the right person and the right circumstances to suit their needs. Because if we believe in the universe and the way it works, that is how it will work, right? You don't have to solve everybody's problems. There are many people out in the world who can solve the same problem that you do in a different way, of course. So that's one of the first things. If you feel any feelings of guilt, then the first thing you need to work on is letting go of that old client. I like to do a little ritual and then basically, hand them back to the universe and go, I know you're going to help them find the support that they need so that I can shift into really supporting the people I am here and designed to serve right now. Okay. That's the first one. As we go along, have a look at like which of these feel most resonant for you. The second one is we haven't actually done the work to clarify who our dream client is. And this is for a lot of people. And it's certainly, I've had this experience as well. I've just kind of bumbled along and gone, oh, who's showing up? Oh, who is being attracted? But that's like the circular thing. I'm like, oh, this is who came to me, but they came to you because that's who you're attracting with your copy, right? So you're like, oh, but that's who's coming to me. I'm like, there's a reason that's who's coming to you because that's who you're speaking to. That's who you're attracting, right? So we need to attract who we're speaking with to first in order to raise who we are attracting to. It doesn't happen the other way around. So one of the ways we begin to do that is by clarifying who is our ideal client and going, that's who I'm wanting to serve. That's who I'm going to be speaking to in my copy. The third one is, and this might feel a little bit tricky to hear, and I really understand that. But it is an experience that not everyone talks about, but is really, really common. And I'll have, this is how I have also experienced this as well. So one of the things we can do is not realize that we're staying in our comfort zone with who we're attracting. We feel really confident. We feel like there's nothing that they can bring to us that we can't solve in many ways. And it's like we feel like we are further along on the journey than them and more advanced. There is nothing wrong with this. It's about recognizing, am I staying in that comfort zone even though I know I am ready to serve somebody else, right? So that's the nuance. There's nothing innately wrong with the comfort zone. It's when you start to feel niggles around the clients you've been attracting, and what used to feel okay doesn't feel okay anymore, or it bothers you, or it frustrates you. And you're like, oh, I just actually wish I could work with somebody who got it faster, or whatever it is that you might be saying. They're signals that you are sitting in your comfort zone and you need to elevate yourself outside of your comfort zone. And part of that is being willing to speak to people who may potentially make you feel uncomfortable, which brings us to the fourth point. So, in terms of who we are ideally here to serve, often, sometimes that person can actually be at a more advanced place than us. They might be making more money. They might be working with more clients. They actually might have had a more successful relationship. And you might be asking, well, if that's the case, how can I serve those people? Which is part of the internal talk that can come up. And one of the things I really encourage my clients to recognize is you have a nugget of expertise. So right now I'm working with a brilliant healer, and she really supports people, particularly founders and like leaders in like social justice, conscious change. And she has the skill set to support those people to be able to lean on the universe and create in a really sustainable way in their business in tandem with the universe, which is what they want. And but she's like to me, yeah, but the people I can see I'm really here to work with, they're way more successful than me. Make a lot more money. They've got teams and I'm just working for myself. Right. So this is an example of that number four. She's like, how can I say that I'm like someone they should hire? And I said to her, listen, the skills that you have, do they have them? She's like, no. Is it what they're looking for in terms of moving to create the greater impact and change that they want? Like, are those skills that you have what they need? She's like, absolutely. Do you feel completely confident that those skills you have, you can transfer to them, you can teach them, you can help them actually develop those skills for themselves? Yes, I can. So are you the missing link to what it is they need in order to advance and get more success in the way they want? She's like, yes, I am. And I was like, then why would you not go out there and say, I can help you do that, and here's how, right? She doesn't need to be at the level of success in order to be confident and congruent that she can help them with the problem that they have that allows them to elevate to where they want to go, right? So I have worked with clients who are more successful in business than me. I feel really confident. I didn't used to be, by the way. I now feel really confident working with people who make a lot more money than I do, because I know when they get my access to my expertise, they're going to go on to be even more successful because they're missing this piece in their marketing and their messaging that I can deliver to them. And I feel very confident in my skills and what I can deliver. So hopefully that makes sense around that fourth one, because it's a really big block for a lot of women, right? We stay in our comfort zone because if we really went for that higher level client, it would make us feel uncomfortable. It would open up some of our insecurities about who am I to serve that person? Who am I to say I can do that? Very normal, guys. Super, super normal. But I want to highlight it for you because those are the pieces that are barriers to you attracting that higher level client, the dream client on a more consistent basis. So let me know in the comments, like what are some of those for you, or which is the one that feels most resonant for you right now? My chat box. Where's my chat box gone? There she is. Okay. And so, from an energetic level, like these are some of the things that get in the way. And unless we solve or begin to raise these pieces, it can be really hard for us to press publish on that blog post that speaks to that person. It can be really hard for us to put inside our sales page, I can do this. It can be hard for us in our content to go, I work with visionary founders who make 100K plus a year. And you don't have to be saying that in a copy, but that's the person you need to be speaking to. If on the inside you're feeling, oh, I'm not sure that they would like actually see that I'm not sure I am the right person to help them. If you're saying that on the inside, it's going to be really hard for you to put that in your copy and speak to the right level of person. So really big pieces here for us to be working on. All right. So, and one of the things I want to share to help you with that is recognizing, which is a visual example of what I've just said, right? This person, wherever they are in their journey, whatever it is, their level of success versus yours, what they're missing is this spot in the middle, your gifts and the things that they need that your gifts match. So, remembering that socket and plug analogy, they have holes in their business, their relationship, their health, their wealth creation. You have the skills that can help them solve those problems and move to their next level of experience. Okay? So just remember that. All right. So I've already shared some of these, but in terms of raising our alignment, one of the things I talked about at the beginning was releasing that old client. So we can do that through a ritual and rewiring ourselves to, in our mind, speak to and really own that we are here to work with that next level client. And that can be just visualizing, one of the ways I like to do this is like visualizing them, like actually writing in my journal, like all of those attributes and characteristics we talked about earlier, and feeling the gratitude for, like, oh, I can't believe I get to work with this level of client, right? I can't believe I get to work with, Julie, who, makes me happy every time I see her pop up into my calls, right? Really recognizing and being grateful for the attributes of the people who are already here, even if they're not at the level of your dream client. That's one of the ways we can rewire as well. Clarify the dream client. So that's part of the work that we've done today. Really write them into being, right? Like, who is it? What are those characteristics? Where are they in their journey? What are the problems that they are trying to solve? Really get that clarity. And then that last one, as we talked about in terms of aligning our energy, is really identifying and clarifying those fears that are barriers to us aligning. And a lot of the times it's coming down to those pieces around, who am I to serve that person? Who am I to say I can solve this problem? Right? So that's that internal congruence and clarity and confidence that we need around, yes, I can do this, and here's how I do it, right? So that's that internal confidence piece. Now, I wanted to share this with you because this is the bigger picture perspective. So today we've been talking about your ideal client and how to speak to them inside their copy. Inside your copy. I just want to take you higher level for a minute. And this is our last slide of the day. So we're almost done. And I really wanted you to think about, from your ideal client's perspective, like, why do they want to buy from you? Because it's not just about your copy. It's about the 4 things here. And I really wanted to give you this framework so that you could look at your entire business from this higher perspective. So that first one there is what they want, your ideal client wants, is what you have, right? So coming back to this slide here, they want this. For the women that I work with, the soul-driven entrepreneurs, visionaries, and founders, that means that, they're looking for your particular combination of gifts. So don't hide them. So I've always been very vocal about my ability and skill and expertise with words. That's never been hidden. What I did hide for a long time was my intuitive gifts, my ability to read energy, and my channeled insights that I share with my clients. And the irony is that's actually the thing that makes them buy from me now. When I tell them I can do that, they're like, that's why I chose you. I had a client recently with my one-to-one work, and she loved all of the strategy I gave to her. But I gave her a message breakthrough audit. When in that audit, I said to her, here's intuitively what I know is in the way for you. I shared that with her, and then she said to me, "That's actually why I bought. Your people are looking for your gifts, so don't hide them." Okay. That second one is really to recognize that the other piece is like they're looking for the way that you do it. So be really loud and proud about your gifts, about your processes, about your approach. What makes you different? In my world, there's a lot of people who do message and marketing. They don't do it in a strategic and spiritual way. I am very grounded. I am very soul driven. I bring both of those together in my work, and that's why a lot of people are magnetized to me because they don't just want messaging. They want messaging in the bigger context of, you know, it coming from your heart and soul, you being authentic in the way you deliver your business and your content. And that is part of my specialty and also what makes me different, right? So I am now very vocal about that as often as I can be. So, and they're looking for that. They're looking for your way of doing things. So get clear on your way of doing things and make sure you're sharing that and your way of doing things that is different to other people. They want to feel a connection to you, right? So let's be out there and be authentic about who we are, like our own stories, our challenges, um, you know, and your strengths. So this is about sharing the full vision of who you are as a human and as an expert and as someone who can solve their problem. Remember, we want a connection with somebody. We're not just, that's one of the things that we're like, we often can make us buy from you as opposed to someone else. You know, it's that connection where I'm like, oh, I feel like I know you and I feel like you can help me solve my problem. And that final one there to recognize is the other reason people buy from you is because you have a clear solution to a problem they want to solve. This is about your offers. That's a whole other webinar by itself. But in terms of the context of today, we've been talking about how do you attract a higher level client through speaking to higher level problems. But they're still not going to go on to buy from you unless the offer that you are putting in front of them is a clear solution to those problems. So something else to really consider. And when you go back and look at your copy now and look at the problems that you're speaking to, and really, when you identify the higher level problems that you want to solve overall, it's worth going back and looking at, are my freebies, are my webinars, and are my offers speaking to that higher level problem? So, as I mentioned earlier, when it came to my Elevate Mastermind, I was not offering something that spoke to the higher level problem in terms of a freebie or a lead generation offer, which is why I created the new webinar, Up Your Nurture Game, because it spoke to the higher level problems my ideal clients for that offer were having. So I wanted to just give you that final big picture context so that you could also get an intuitive feel for, okay, so maybe it's not just my copy, it could be these bigger pieces as well. All right, so are there any final questions before we wrap up our time together today? If you do want my support to really dive into those particular problems that you are and how to elevate them to speak to that higher level problem, I am offering a 30-minute complimentary dream client clarity session. And you can access that through the link there. And I'm also going to put it into the chat box. They're only available for the next 2 weeks, so definitely go in and grab your spot now. I think I've only got one per day, so there's a very limited number of calls there for you to check out. So feel free to take me up on that offer. If particularly if you feel like you're struggling still to, and that's can be really normal if you're still drawing a blank in terms of like who is that higher level client, or if you're asking yourself the question, am I speaking to them or am I not? And you'd like my eyes on your copy, I can certainly help you with that inside this session. And as I've mentioned, the Elevate Mastermind is my group offer where I really get into this kind of work on a regular basis with my clients who are in there. So if you'd like some more information about that, you can find it on my website or DM me if you'd like to talk about whether that's a good fit for you. But this is a great step in the Dream Client Clarity session is a great step just to really help you sink into who is that person I'm really here to serve and am I speaking to them in my copy? All right, so that brings us to the end of our webinar today. Doesn't look like there are any other questions. Thank you so much for watching this or watching this on the replay. Please do feel free to reach out to me on email or on DMs if you have any questions about anything that I brought up today. Really happy to hear from you and answer your questions. And please do book in for a dream client clarity session if you're feeling the call to get my eyes on your copy and do some work on you speaking to your higher level client for that 30 minutes. All right. Thank you, my friends. I appreciate your time and look forward to connecting again very soon. All right. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me.